Period. We're live.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to yet another Shabbat service. If you're keeping the creation calendar, I hope you've been keeping the Moed of Sukkot this week thus far. I know I've been having guests and fun at my tent. Right now, we're going to get our first test of rain, so see if my build quality holds up. But outside of that, I hope everyone's been offering offerings made by fire, grain offerings, drink offerings, and I've been waving the gathering of the species and the fruit of your land with friends and family. This week, as a complete, has been a rough week for me in regards to making sure I get all the things done, work, dealing with my dog's newfound attitude, and just trying to get through without punching somebody, which I'm sure everyone has that at some point or another. But on Monday we had a Bible study, which if you would like to partake, I keep comments on the videos. Please drop your WhatsApp number so we can add you to the chat, and then I'll obviously invite you to the Google Meet that we do. There was a question that was asked that I thought was a great question and spurred an old thought that I had a while back. And that old thought has to do with who are we keeping this walk for? And who is this neighbor that we're responsible for? And I know, because I went back in our catalog about 3.5 years ago, we made a teaching on this. But it was with the knowledge we had then, so I went back, watched it a couple of times, sat on it a couple of times, delved into a couple of different books, and then obviously 3.5 years of progressive revelation. There's some newfound understanding, obviously, that I would like to share with you guys today. So the title is going to be Neighbor, and I would like to start off in Luke chapter 10, and I want to read verses 25 through 37. Luke, for those who are trying to learn Hebrew. And chapter 10 says, and we'll do our best in regards to if you have any questions in the Bible study. We'll all start doing this gathering questions from there. So this will spur it on, and I'll try to take things from there to reinforce what we've discussed. Verse 1? No, verse 25. I'm going to read to 37.
Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 37.
Yes, sir.
And see, a certain Torah teacher stood up and tested him, saying, Adon, what shall I do to inherit eternal Chaim, life? And he said to him, What is written in the Torah? How do you read it? And he answering said, You shall love the Master Yahuwah, your Eloah, with all your lev, and with all your being, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he said to him, You have answered right.
Pause there. So verse 26 sets the table for the mindset we should have when we start thinking of biblical topics. Focusing on the phrase, how do you read it? That's the question that was asked. How do you read it? That's a very important thing, because many times when there's disagreements or as we like to say in the camp, a shoulder to shoulder rather than an eye to eye moment, it has to do with how something's read. Translations obviously come into play, and things like who has taught us in the past, influences, and then obviously our previous religious denominations play a role in all our understanding of the word. So when someone asks you about a biblical topic, I think that's a very tough way to start. How do you read it? Because it's hard for you to come to a place of common grounds and establish a matter using 12 witnesses and having a clear conscience if I don't know where you're coming from. It's just hard to do that because now you're arguing perspectives rather than the law. So with that, that's a very key emphasis to point out. How do you read it? And in verse 27, which I think you read as well,
Correct.
Yahusha is referring to the Torah and citing the two greatest commandments for all of Israel, which we know is Deuteronomy 6:5, the first greatest commandment, and Leviticus 19:18, which is the second greatest commandment. Knowing, if you would like to read it, we can read it. But those, if you don't know it, it's love Yahuwah all your soul, might, soul, and being, and then the second one is love your neighbor as yourself. But we can read those if you want the references. Continue.
These do, and you shall live. Verse 29. But he, willing to justify himself, said to Yahusha, and who is my neighbor? And Yahusha answering said, a certain man went down from Yahushalayim to Jericho and fell among thieves, who stripped him of his garments and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain Kohen priest that way. And when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levi, when he was at the place.
Pause there. So now we have something to note, which I found funny. I just noticed this now reading it. Like not now, but as when I was putting this together. You have a priest and a Levite. Then it's a very interesting dichotomy. I always think about something that you always bring up, the North and the South Kingdoms. You have a Levite and a priest. Not from the same place. Just something to note.
And likewise a Levi. And when he was at the place, came and looked at him and passed by on the other side. But a certain Shomroni, as he journeyed, supposed to be sojourned, you know?
Correct.
No, sojourn is to stay in place.
No, sojourn is to be traveling. It's your journey.
Oh, no. It says journey.
Okay.
And when he journeyed, he came to where he was. And when he saw him, he had compassion on him, and went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And in the morning, when he departed, he took out 2 pieces of silver and gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, take care of him. Whatever more you spend, when I come again, I will repay you. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to him that fell victim among the thieves?
So I'm going to pause here again. Yahushua HaMashiach calls out the state. The state is Beit Yisrael, that includes us, in both houses. The priest, which is Ephraim, and the Levite, which is Judah. Or the kingdom of the south. Both the priest and the Levite failed to live up to their roles as ambassadors of Yahushua. Both failed. And these are righteous, I'm going to say law, Torah-keeping men. Hence their position. These are not normal people. These are not the common folk. These are not the brothers and sisters that you see at Shabbat. This is as if me and Amatia saw a brother in need and walked away. And then a third, let's just say a Christian, were to pay or do the task that we failed to do. That's exactly what just happened. And then on Shabbat, we will say, oh, don't be a Christian because blah, 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 blah. But we failed in keeping the basics. So then Yahushua asks, which of these 3 is truly your neighbor? The brothers who are keeping the law, or the brother who actually helped you?
Verse 37. And he said, he that showed Rachamim, mercy, to him. Then said Yahusha to him, go and do likewise.
So that is the charge now that Yahushua gives you. Go and do likewise. If we're supposed to be a kingdom of priests and kings, the charge is to do likewise. And I would like to double up on this and go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 1. And let's read verses 16 and 17.
Chapter 16?
No, chapter 1, verse 16 and 17.
Yeshayahu, chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. Wash yourself and make yourself clean. Put away the evil of your doings before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do tov. Seek mishpat. Relieve the oppressed. Defend the fatherless and plead for the widow.
Okay, so that's what you're supposed to do for your brother. That's a direct command. If you're not doing any of that, shame on you. Psalms 82:3.
Tehillim, chapter 82, verse 3. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do mishpat, judgment, to the afflicted and needy.
Again, if you find yourself consistently not doing this, don't ask who your neighbor is. The opportunities are being presented to you. Don't ask, who am I doing this for? What is my charge? The opportunities are being presented to you. But instead, a ger, a Christian, a Muslim, an atheist, a deist, a monk is doing what we're ought to do more than what we are doing. And it's a pity because much has been given to us. Many riches, much health, many children, lands and cities that we did not build, and yet we fail to do these things. But then we ask, oh, I have no brothers in the walk. I have no sisters in the walk. Oh, where is this person so I can complete my mitzvah? As frustrating as it is at times, the moments of frustration, funny enough, are often the times that you have to enact the most Torah. That's when the flesh meet the ruach. And unfortunately, your nefesh becomes the battleground. And you got to keep it honest with yourself. If you can complete the mitzvah, do it. I'm starting to better understand the be angry but sin not. Because there's a lot of moments where you're annoyed and you don't want to do something. And you go, I'd rather not do it. Right there, you fail. It's right there. That's where you anger led to sin. Versus, all right, I'll do it. Mad as you are, you have completed the mitzvah. You did not sin. The emotion of anger was still present in both scenarios. Your frustration was still expressed. But the recourse that you took towards your neighbor, completely different. One is tov onto Yahuwah, one is tov onto the evil, which is unfortunately you, not Hasatan. Let's go back to the book of Luke and note on back to 10, chapter 10, verse 36 and 37. I want to make another note here. Yahusha, who we all know is a Torah rabbi, which he did accept that title, shows us an example. And then issues a command to be the example of the account given, the Good Samaritan. This is how everyone knows this account, the Good Samaritan. So rather than asking who my neighbor is or what is my neighbor, Yahusha tells you how to be a neighbor who seeks to find, the neighbor who seeks to be found in this walk. That's a better way of saying it. Excuse me. I would like to add on to this, just so you understand what this Good Samaritan did. If you were to give 2 silvers, or as the Greek says, 2 denarii, that's a whole day's wage. So if you were a common man back in the time of Yahusha, and you were not lower class, you were not upper class, you were just a common man, and you got paid 2 denarii a day, which is about roughly 12 denarii a week. They used to have Sunday off, or Saturday if you were in the Jewish province. That means that this man gave up a whole day's worth of work, and it wasn't 8 hours. This was from sun up to sundown. This is 12, 13 hours. He gave that up for a complete stranger. I know people who won't give me $10, let alone a day's wage. So when you ask, oh, how much is too much? Think about this stranger, what he gave. Now, it's what's expected of Israel, who's supposed to be the head. This is a tail that gave a day's wage. You know, there's something that the black Hebrews do that I have to say we should start copying, which is they love to show out. They love to show out. Their intentions are wicked as hell sometimes because they just want to make it about them and their presentation. But the byproduct of the action is people get to know right away where they stand. Right away, they know where they stand. Good or bad, they know where they stand. We are so tails tucked between our legs like a dog, funny enough, when it comes to our faith. We do everything in our power to hide. I know people who to this day still hide their CCs in their pocket. You know what I mean? So like, we'll be quick to say something about another denomination. We'll be quick to say something about another person's walk, which we shouldn't do, but we do anyways. And then we have the audacity to then ask you who, oh look, I've been keeping all the commandments. You know, I do Shabbat the right way, I do Sukkot the right way. Like, it's pitiful. That's the only way I can say it. It's pitiful. So, for the following, as we go through this, I want to focus on the mannerisms, the actions that should be taken as a neighbor in Torah, because that's all I care about. My neighbor in the real world is just that. I care about you guys in the world. And how a neighbor in Torah should be perceived by those in and out of the faith, because your report has to be a good one. So let's go to 1 Peter chapter 2 and start in verse 12. Hey. Relax.
First Peter chapter 2 verse 12. Having your behavior honest among the nation, that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may be by your mitzvot, which they shall behold. Esteem Yahuwah in a future yom of personal visitation.
Stay in the same book, verse 15.
For so is the will of Yahuwah, that with well-doing you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men.
So, let's break this down a little bit. A neighbor in Torah should always have a good report. Not to say you're sinless or you should carry a holier than thou situation. Not what I'm just suggesting to you. But rather, when you are being a true neighbor in the accordance of the law, you serve as a living testament to others around you of Yahuwah's holiness. Because despite what the world wants to do and say about you, your good will outlast and overcome the false and bad reports spoken of you and against Yahuwah. Because at the end of the day, actions will always last longer than words. Your actions won't save you, but they will serve as a testament against you. So let those actions be good so that your testament can stand as a toll of witness for you in your salvation come day of judgment. That's what's being judged at the end of the day. Now, the logical question then, if we're going with the same flow here, is how does a neighbor in Torah act from the day to day? Because we all know how you got to act on Shabbat. We all got to know how you act on the Moeds and the Mikra Kodesh and the new months and in the new year. That's already been established. And in the Hags, which are the required gatherings 3 times a year of all men in Israel. That's easy. How do you act the other 250 some odd days? You're told for a third of the year, if you do the math. Okay, so what about the other 2/3? Okay, so let's start. Leviticus chapter 19. We're going to read verses 9 through 17.
Uaikra, chapter 19, verse 9. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not wholly reap the corners of your field, neither shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not glean your vineyard, neither shall you gather every grape of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the ger, stranger. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. You shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie to one another. You shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shall you defile the name of your Elohim. I am Yahuwah. You shall not defraud your neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with you all lilac, night, until the morning. You shall not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shall fear your Elohim. I am Yahuwah. You shall do no unrighteous mishpat, judgment. You shall not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of mighty. But in tzedakah, righteousness, you shall judge your neighbor. You shall not give up, you shall not go up and down as the slanderer among your people. Neither shall you stand against the dam, blood of your neighbor. I am Yahuwah. You shall not hate your brother in your lev, heart. You may rebuke your neighbor and not suffer sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahuwah.
17.
To me, that's 18.
Oh, that is 18. My bad. I kept going.
The daily life. All those things you got to think about. Some of those things, because your parents raised you well, you don't got to think about it because it's second nature. But these are all things that you have to conduct yourself with. And there's some key highlights in there that I will point out at another date and time for another teaching I have in the works. But no slandering, no grudges, no favoritism, no unrighteous judgment, which I have to make a teach on that because I think people lost sight of that. No breaking any of the 10 commandments that we know in Leviticus chapter 20. That's the foundation. That's
Exodus 20.
Sorry, I said, what I said, Genesis?
Exodus.
No, I said Genesis.
Oh, you said Leviticus.
My apologies. Exodus chapter 20. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
steps to get into kindergarten are these things. So we're not even in school yet. This is just what you got to know to get in. This is everything here just to be decent. This is just a decent person. This person is not going out of the way to help anyone. He's just minding his business at this point and keeping the things in Yahuwah. So that's where we start. It also shows how you should behave, how you should speak, how you should conduct yourself, which are, again, elementary matters if we're all adults. Notice there's no adjectives being added to neighbor, like good or bad. It doesn't say if you're good, you'll do these things, or if you're bad, you'll not do these things. This is what the foundation is. There's no such thing as a bad neighbor if you're going by the example of Torah. If you're keeping Torah, you can't be a bad neighbor. Key words what I just said there. If you're keeping Torah. And if you're being the neighbor that lives on the law or lives by the law, and the example left by Yahusha, then there's only room to be good to those in and out of the faith. Behaving like anything else in the neighbor makes you either my enemy, because I'm your brother and you're treating me wrong, or a stranger, because now you're treating the people as not an ambassador of Yahuwah. So now they're further distancing themselves from the Shekinah of Yahuwah and coming over to cross over. Neither a good position to be, a stranger or an enemy. Or worse, you're both. Because now within the camp, we don't know who you are anymore. You acting out of pocket. If you don't believe me or you think I'm being too explicit, let's go to Matthew chapter 5. And we're going to read verses 43 through 48.
Matthew what?
5, 43 through 48.
Thank you.
No worries.
Matityahu, chapter 5, verse 43. You have heard that it has been said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Rather, I say to you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do tov, good, to them that hate you. And make tefillah, prayers, for those who despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Abba, who is in the Shamayim, heavens. For he makes his Shemesh, sun, to rise on the evil and on the tov, good, and sends rain on the Zedikim, righteous ones, and on those who are not Zadikim.
So, again, building this character of the neighbor. A neighbor that lives by Torah, or a Torah-keeping neighbor, say it like that, a little bit easier to follow, and is living by the example of Yahushua HaMoshiach, is not just a Torah-keeping neighbor to those who are pleasant in his or her sight, but also to those who don't deserve it. And that's probably where we lack the most. It's the not deserving part. Because we got plenty of yes men and yes women. Plenty of people that, because he's always been good to me or she's always been good to me, I'm always going to be good to you or to her. We have that. That's easy. But to those who don't deserve it, they don't get to see Yahusha in their life. So we have to be them. Because if they were doing well, they wouldn't need us. We'd be on to the next. Or this point would be moot, because we're already doing it. If you're doing good and I'm doing good, am I adding to your righteousness at that point? Or am I adding to your edification? I can give you glory in the sense of giving you praise and relaying your report to others. But I can't build upon you if you're already doing the right thing. At that point, it's between you and Yahuwah. Keep going. Good job. Die in your tokenness.
Verse 45.
Yahusha loves us through actions and behaviors of the neighbor that keeps Torah. And as we're going to read now, I'm sorry, 40 and 45.
46.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
46 now. You read 45.
Verse 46. For if you only love them who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your Israelite brothers only, what do you do more than others? Do not even tax collectors do also or do so?
Again, like I mentioned earlier, if you're only doing good between two good people, you're not doing anything for Yahuwah. You're just not. You're keeping the law, amen, but it's not to Yahuwah's glory. You're just keeping the law. You're being a good neighbor. But if you're keeping the law to a good neighbor, but you have an unpleasant neighbor, and you don't keep these things with that person, you're now bringing a shame. You're now not doing the due diligence of Yahusha, which is to be righteous to those who don't deserve your righteousness, to do good to those who definitely don't deserve your good. Or how I had this conversation with someone recently. Sometimes it sucks knowing that you give someone money, they're not going to pay you back. I treat this walk like that. There will be times where you will put a lot of effort into somebody because of Torah's sake. And you'll never, that person will end up going to the strip club, eating pork right in front of you. And you would think all that time, all that effort, all that praying that you've done for that person or that family, if it's a family unit. Or worse, you bring them into truth, and then the minute they're out of your sight, they leave truth. Was it all a guise, a facade? No, they just they continuously need someone to be a good neighbor to them. That's what it is. They always need an example. Unfortunately, that poor in Israel, there's a reason why they're poor. It's because they lack the ability to keep righteous. So they need examples to keep them in the path, because they're going to get into the kingdom. They are. They're just not going to be great. But we got to get them there. Got to get them there. When you're being this good neighbor, this causes the undeserving, as I call them. That's my scripture for them. Or the people who are looking for a neighbor to shoot and return to Torah and back to our master. And a lot of times this won't happen in that season. Most of the time it won't happen ever in your lifetime. And unless it's one of those people who have a whole, as they say, come to Jesus moment. Come to Yahusha moment. But you start influencing. You start planting seeds. You start seeing behaviors change. You start seeing how they walk and carry themselves. It does change. It probably won't happen in front of you, though. But you'll see the byproduct. You'll see how their kids act. And if you live long enough, their grandkids. We read in Romans, actually, I'm not going to say it. Romans 13, 8 through 10. No. I was going to give a point, but let me let people read it. Because I have to break the habit of assuming that people know what I'm talking about. In regards to like verses.
Roman 8 what?
13. No, Romans 13, 8 through 10. Like, it's a mental thing for me because I talk to people who like read a lot, so it's a lot easier to have a conversation. I have conversations with a lot of pastors and clerical men that because of their profession, they have to read a lot. So sometimes it's easier to engage in dialogue with them because I don't have to quote chapter and verse every single time to establish a matter. They know what I'm referring to. But, again, you have to know your crowd. There are potentially hundreds and thousands of people who are going to watch this stream that have never picked up a Bible. So, in the comments or whatever, and people in the crowd, you have to catch me when I say, oh, we know in this verse and chapter. No, you don't. They don't know that. Assume you don't know. So we can all be held accountable to whatever the translation we're reading.
Romans chapter 13, verse 8.
Yeah.
Owe no man anything, but to love one another. For he that loves another has fulfilled the Torah. For this you shall not commit adultery. You shall not kill. Well, you shall not murder. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet. And if there is any other mitzvah, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, ahavta, right?
No.
Yeah, that's not what it says though.
Mhm.
Ahavta re'echa kamocha.
So
And you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
it goes down to this. This is daily. Everything I'm reading to you is daily. Everything is being read to you is daily. Starting here starts off, oh no man, nothing. Money, favors, goodwill. If someone's gone out of the way for you and you don't meet them where they're at or meet them where they gave you the place to meet them at, again, shame on you. Because now you will make that person become bitter in that season. And when they walk off the path, that's on you. Now you have to redeem that brother in your walk. You need to redeem and then restore yourself so they can see you back as the good neighbor. But this is daily. This is not just one Shabbat to another or one Moed to another. This is one day to another. Sun goes up, you gotta act right. Sun goes down, act right. Wake up again, rinse and repeat. It's a daily commitment to Torah. It's a daily commitment to being a good example. It's a daily commitment for all of Israel. Those that already know who they are and those who are lost. To spur the change that we want to see, which is a collection of people that are kings and priests in the eyes of Yahusha. And when he comes, worthy of the title of bride. We got to earn that title. The Western world has fooled us that men have to find a woman and we throw a big ball to make her feel better. The man is the prize. It's not the woman. Yahusha is the man in her life. The women are lucky to have him. As we go through 13, Romans 13, 8 through 10 as well, it's in good faith and in actions that helps you not only embody Yahusha, but the entire Torah as it concludes. If this is any matter is fulfilled in these two things, or this one thing, love your neighbor as yourself. After you being the person that I'm talking to, I'm putting this charge on you. Fulfill the role of the neighbor that we are gathering the components for today. Yah will provide you with what you sought to find, which is another good neighbor. Because you have shown him that you are worthy of such companion. You have shown yourself to be an elite. And I'm not talking about, like some people say, Illuminatis and the families of the earth. I'm talking about elite as someone who is an ambassador of Yahusha. Someone who it is a name bearer. Someone that if someone saw your walk and didn't know anything about you, they can say, oh, that is a godly man. We let the Ger beat us too much in that. Even if it's not according to knowledge, they look better than we do. That shouldn't be the case. It just shouldn't be the case. We're the city on the hill. We're the fire underneath the bush. We're the peculiar treasure. Why are we always being beat? It goes back to a conversation I had with a black professor that teaches here at Lincoln High. There's a reason why minority people tend to fail at a higher rate than blacks and Latinos tend to fail at a higher rate than whites and other Asian ethnic groups. It's not because they're dumb. Some of the greatest things in the world were invented by Latinos and black men and women. The commitment to accountability and the commitment to excellency is piss poor. That's what it is. And that same mentality has plagued Israel. We are okay with being okay. We're okay with being broke. Oh, Yahuwah will provide. Provide what? What is he providing you? Like, we take that phrase and the Yahuwah will provide is the Hebrew version of grace. That's what it is. It is the JC will always forgive you. That's how the Hebrews take it. I had a conversation with a Hebrew that told me that, oh, I'm okay living in Section 8 with my 2 kids because at least I got a place. But same person would tell me he's worried for his kid's safety because there was a school shooting and he knows that's the norm. How can those two statements make sense? You think Yahuwah's gonna put your kids in a dangerous place? That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. But he's not also gonna just miraculously snap his fingers one day and be like, oh, now you in Beverly Hills and your neighbor's LeBron James. That's not gonna happen. That's just not gonna happen. So again, we have to start making daily commitments to being good neighbors. We have to make daily commitments to being people who live in accordance to Torah. All these things that we keep reading, doing good. Like I said in our last live stream, let's do more good. It costs you nothing but your life. It costs you nothing. If we all took the time to be this neighbor that Torah shows us to be, we won't have to ask who your neighbor is. Who is your neighbor? But the question would naturally come, am I being the neighbor I seek to love as myself? Because that's the commandment we have to fulfill. Am I the person I would like to love? Am I the person I would like to dwell with? If you can't stand yourself, why would you want your brothers and sisters to? We're selfish in all the wrong things, and then not self-conscious in things that we ought to be self-conscious of. I can't love you if you don't love you. Because despite everything I do for you, you're going to think that it's for naught. Because you don't take me serious, because you don't take yourself serious. And that just makes a very dangerous and dark and sick cycle that then translates to children, and those children to their children. And now you have a lineage of this very vicious cycle of, let's just call it politely, lack of excellency. Just to be polite. We have to have our focus on being told before Yahuwah and fulfilling the commands. Let's go into what Rav Shaul says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25.
Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25. Therefore put away lying and speak every man the emet, truth, with his neighbor, for we are members of one another.
And same gentleman, but we're reading a different scroll he wrote. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 24.
Corinthians Aleph, chapter 10, verse 24. Let no man seek his own interests only, but every man another's well-being and welfare.
So I like the way this reads in our Bible, and many Bibles does not read like this. Don't seek your own self only, meaning that you have goals and ambitions. You have to strive and grow. You have to, because there's no way you can do them away. Because you gotta buy livestock to sacrifice. You gotta buy land to do this, and you need to have something to bring to offer. You can't do that being broke. You can't do that not having anything. But don't get so wrapped up in yourself that you forget the person next to you. Don't get so wrapped up in yourself that you can't keep the things of Yahuwah. You can't keep the things of Yahuwah with the people you have to keep it with. The deserving and the undeserving. The brother that you love and the brother that deserves your love. Even if it's not ready to be reciprocated in that season. Too many times. We get burned or we get put off by something a brother or sister does, and then that's it. Torah ends right there. Do as you please. Yahuwah will judge.
If that was the mentality of Yahuwah, we would have died in the wilderness. We would have died in the wilderness. He would have taken Moshe's seed, and Israel would have been a lot different after that encounter in Exodus. I forget what chapter that is. But he didn't do that. Why didn't he do that? Because, like we ought to know, but he already knows. People are going to mess up. People are going to come short. People will do evil in the land and tell themselves they're doing tov and lie to Yahuwah and say they're doing tov. That will happen. That will happen. We will do sin and call it righteousness. We will blaspheme the Ruach HaKodesh. We will. We will. I know many say, oh, I know to avoid certain things. No, because just that mindset. Just that mindset of, oh, I know. You're already in sin. Like Yahusha says, just the thought of sleeping with another man's woman is a sin. Forget about doing the action. So, where's your head at? Where's your heart at? Well, we know your heart's wicked, but where's your head at? Because that's ultimately where you're going to go. That's the truth. If you wake up today and say, you know what, I'm going to keep Shabbat. I'm going to prepare myself for Shabbat. You're going to give this day the reverence it deserves. You're going to go out of your way to make sure you make this Shabbat the best Shabbat you can make it for this week. But if you wake up and say, Shabbat, gotta get dressed, gotta give, the wine and the bread or whatever the hell the priest at that time gave me to do for the week, then I gotta drive, and then the kids. By the time you get to Shabbat, you have ruined the shalom given to you. You have already established yourself in a way that is not going to be prosperous to you. You already put in your heart that this day is not worth your rest, or the rest that Yahuwah has allowed you. Better say, that's the whole point of this day. We play around a lot with our lives, because if we truly believed, we have a guest.
Somebody knocking on the door.
But if we truly believe that every day, if we truly believe, I think you gotta move your car. We have a brother has to move his car. If we truly believe that every day is a blessing and given to us by the Heavenly Father, Yahuwah, and we don't know if the next day is promised to us, we gotta change our behavior, because some of us are acting like as if we got multiple tomorrows. Like we have ultimate opportunities to make teshuvah. I don't know why, because every time someone dies, the first thing I say is, damn, I hope that person had no beef. I hope that person said they're, ended on a good note with their mom, with their dad, if they have siblings. We think about all those moments that we should make amends with people in case we do go. Because life ends like that. And that's it. There's no more reconciliation for you at that point. And every funeral I've been through in the last 2 years, and I've been to a couple already, that is the top thing. Oh, last time we spoke, it wasn't on the greatest terms, and now I can't even say sorry. Or, oh, now I can't even, tell, hey, it wasn't worth the fight. So why do we conduct ourselves in a way as if life is just a guaranteed thing? If you knew you were going to die tomorrow, how would you act today? That's my question. I ask my wife that all the time. If the apocalypse started tomorrow, what would you do today? Whatever you have, don't give me the answer today. Don't give me the answer ever. Whatever you feel is an appropriate answer for yourself. That's how you should act every day. If you can't act like that, then you are living a mindset. You're living in a mindset that believes that you have a life guaranteed to you. And I'm going to tell you right now, life is not guaranteed. Yahuwah treats the good and the wicked with fairness and righteousness, but he takes away life whenever he feels like it. As we read in Ecclesiastes, the man of the field and the beast of the field meet the same fate. They both die. So don't think yourself above anything or anyone.
Don't think that because of this walk, you're guaranteed an old life. There's people who even keep the commandment of love your mother and your father, and your days will be prolonged in the world. They keep that command faithfully, and they still die in their youth. Prolonged just means that whatever was promised to you, you got a little bit extra. Doesn't mean forever. Just prolonged. That's all that means. And the moment you stop keeping it, that prolonged status is removed, because it's not a guarantee. It's just a condition of a fact. There's one more verse I want to read, and then I'm going to end with that understanding. Can you read the opening of chapter 6 in the book of Matthew, please? Matthew 6.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 1. Take heed that you do not do your mitzvot before men, to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Abba who is in the Shamayim, heavens. Therefore, when you perform your mitzvot, commandments, do not sound a shofar before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have esteem, tifereth, from men.
So,
Truly I say to you, they have their reward.
oh, yes, I forgot. So, again, I write in the chat every now and again, do good for good's sake. Don't do good because Yahuwah will reward you, because he may not. Your reward may be death. And you know what? That is tov. There's something that was said in the NBA a couple of years ago that I always thought was hilarious. The apology or the forgiveness should be as loud as the crime or disrespect. And I always thought that was funny, because it's so true. In this idea of being a good neighbor, we read earlier, you can rebuke somebody. You can rebuke someone. But if you rebuke somebody and you are righteous in your I guess rebuttal / rebution of that person, make sure that same energy is being used to edify once that person receives the rebuke and changes their way. You can't give half measures. You can't, when someone messes up, blast it on Facebook, Moshe, and then go and then don't have that same respect to go and edify the person once they rectify the situation. That is not becoming of a leader in Israel. That is unbecoming of a man who does not live their life according to Torah. Because my Torah tells me you have to admonish but love. My Torah says, in being a good neighbor, you have to do things that are in accordance of the law. None of those laws involve trampling a man. None of those laws mention tearing down a family. None of those laws show that you should be a division in your camp or in your family or in your multiple families. Because obviously, if we're keeping the law, we're going to meet multiple people with different walks. So, your disrespect or your rebuke or your condemnation of somebody, and most importantly, your judgment of someone, ought to be equal in energy, if not more, when you go edify, build up, give glory, and encourage. Why? Because it's easy to swing the belt. That's easy. Capital punishment is easy. That's why everyone's like, oh yeah, kill that person. It's hard to restore a man. It's hard to restore a woman. It's hard to swallow pride. Being a good neighbor is swallowing pride. Being a good neighbor is restoring the service to its rightful place. And that's not caught on camera. That's caught in these intimate moments that we have. It's caught in the day-to-day where I help you not sin. You help me keep the law. We help each other look a little bit better before the world so that our reports can be atonement. That's when we have the restoration of the service. That's when we have the restoration of the tribes. It's not when we, again, on Facebook, on YouTube, on whatever platform you want to use. We Help Social, my platform. It doesn't matter what platform. Where we are, posting scriptures and trying to show off our intelligence. Or posting vlogs and showing all these good deeds. Who cares? Who cares? Christians have been doing that since the medieval age. We down many points. We're 1,000+ years down. So if we're gonna play the game of charity acts, this game lost already. New game, because you already lost. You cannot good your way into heaven if your intention is just to show yourself to be good. That's just not gonna happen. You're gonna look like the guy who came to the supper of the Lamb with the wrong garments, and Yahushua's gonna ask you, "Who are you? Who knows? Who are you?" You knew me not. You knew me not. So today's teaching is short, but if you don't sit on it, it's gonna go over your head, and I know it. I know it. Yeah, I'm not expecting people to even understand truly what I'm trying to tell you right now. But I hope that I put enough on the table for you to consume that you think about how you act in your day-to-day, at the very least. Especially if you have children. If you mess up and die, my hope and prayer for you is that if you have children, they learn from your mistakes, and in the good that you did impart, they complete that till the day they die. And then they pass along to the next one, so that hopefully one of us gets it right. Hopefully. My dream is that a generation that comes from us will resemble the generation of Yahushua ben Nun. That would be my hope. Joshua, son of Nun. That's my hope. One of us is going to have to make it work. Be it one, right? My hope is met. But one of us got to do it. And I know it's possible because we're called to perfection. I said this last Shabbat. We are called to perfection. Meaning that we have the ability, but we choose not to because we choose not to be a good neighbor. So before you start looking to Yahuwah for salvation, not salvation, for handouts and for blessings and miracles, and put the work in. Be a good neighbor. Unright your wrongs. And redeem yourself so that you're worth Yahuwah looking at you and saying, "Okay, my son, with you, I'll help you out." Because there's people who are doing everything right and their life still sucks, and Yahuwah's working with those people. You don't take priority over that person. You don't. You're unbecoming of them. Make yourself approved. Make yourself worthy of being in the Shekinah of Yahuwah. Do that. That truly is what I'm asking. I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to keep bludgeoning you with this. Because the more and more you hear something, statistically speaking, the more likely you are to do it. It takes 21 days to start a habit, 6 months to establish it, and 7 years to become a master. So my hope is that since we've started, in 7 years, y'all have something right. That's my hope.
We will have something.
Well, I might not be here, so I said you. Comments, questions, concerns, feedback? People in the crowd? Dogs in the back? Yes, Peter.
Good message.
Ah. Okay. All right. Walk to my left. I'm good. All right. Well, then with that, I bid you a good Shabbat. Today is not over. Shabbat is still in session. This is just a teaching that's being ended. it is still a day in the week of Sukkot. So fire offerings, grain offerings, your drink offerings, plus whatever you was supposed to bring for Shabbat, that as well. Do not shortchange it. We appreciate your time. We won't hold you up any longer. Know that we love you here from Ahava and Torah. And until next time, take it easy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.